In the heart of a sleepy, rural town, nestled in a thick forest, there was a legend that sent shivers down the spines of its residents, a tale of the phantom hitchhiker. The story had been passed down through generations, whispered around campfires and shared in hushed tones in dimly lit bars. No one knew when it had begun, but everyone agreed that something sinister lurked in those woods. Every Halloween, the townsfolk would transform the forest into a haunted hayride, a spine-chilling experience for thrill-seekers. It had grown to be a local tradition, attracting visitors from neighboring towns and cities. The hayride was known for its scripted scares and eerie set designs, with actors' creepy costumes giving guests a night they would never forget. One particularly chilly Halloween night, a group of friends decided to partake in the hayride adventure. With nervous excitement, they boarded the creaky wagon drawn by a pair of horses. The forest around them was pitch black, illuminated only by the faint glow of the moon. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the tension grew. The friends huddled together, clinging to each other for comfort as the wagon's wheels rumbled over the uneven path. And then they saw her, a figure by the side of the road, bathed in an otherworldly glow. It was an old woman with matted, silver hair, wearing tattered clothes. Her wrinkled face bore a mournful expression, and her thumb was outstretched, silently begging for a ride. The friends exchanged bewildered glances. This couldn't be part of the act. The hayride operator had assured them that actors wouldn't deviate from their assigned roles. As they drew closer, their fear turned to pity. They decided to help the old woman and motioned for her to climb aboard. She climbed onto the wagon without a word, her eyes fixated on something in the distance. Her presence sent shivers down their spines, and an unsettling silence fell over the group. The hayride continued, and the friends couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the end of the trail, and the old woman made no move to disembark. With growing unease, one of the friends asked, "Is this where you wanted to go, ma'am?" The old woman slowly turned her head to face them, her eyes piercing and filled with sorrow. She finally spoke, her voice a haunting whisper. "This is where I died." The friends recoiled in terror. The hayride operator, who had been watching in confusion, rushed over to see what was happening. When he shined his flashlight on the old woman, she had vanished without a trace, leaving nothing behind but the chilling echo of her words. The hayride operator was pale, realizing that they had just encountered. Local legend of the phantom hitchhiker was the ghost of an old woman who had died while hitchhiking in the area many years ago, and every so often, she would appear to those who ventured into the woods on Halloween night. The friends stumbled off the wagon, shaken and bewildered, their once joyful Halloween adventure forever tainted by the encounter with the otherworldly hitchhiker. They had become part of the legend, their story yet another chilling tale shared around campfires and in hushed tones in dimly lit bars, adding to the lore of the phantom hitchhiker that haunted their town for generations to come. Nestled at the edge of a quiet, forgotten town lay an old, decaying farmstead. Its history was steeped in darkness, and the locals knew to steer clear of its falling structures. The farm had earned a sinister reputation over the decades, with whispers of ghostly apparitions and occurrences. It was the kind of place that inspired cautionary tales parents told their children to keep them away. "Don't go near the old farmstead," they would say, "for it's cursed by something unnatural." But as Halloween approached, the farm's chilling reputation became an attraction. The owner, a man named Benjamin who had inherited the property from his ancestors, saw an opportunity to capitalize on its spooky scenery. He decided to host a haunted hayride, turning the farmstead's dark history into a profitable venture. The first Halloween night arrived, and the farm's transformation was astonishing. Twisted trees and eerie fog set the stage for the haunted hayride, with actors hidden in the shadows, ready to jump out and terrify the guests. It quickly became the talk of the town, and people came from far and wide to experience the haunted hayride. As one of the hayrides filled with guests rolled through the farmstead, strange things began to happen. At one point, the wagon came to a sudden, jarring halt in front of an ancient, crumbling farmhouse. The barn doors creaked open of their own accord, groaning as if in agony. The guests on the hayride exchanged nervous glances as they heard eerie whispers carried on the wind. The farmstead seemed to come alive, its long-forgotten spirits awakening from their slumber. In the windows of the decrepit farmhouse, ghostly apparitions materialized. Flickering candles casted dancing shadows on the walls as the dark figures moved silently, their faces contorted. The guests could hardly believe their eyes. It was as if the farmstead itself was a portal to the afterlife. The terror reached a height when one of the Hayride passengers, a brave soul who couldn't resist the urge to investigate, climbed off the wagon and cautiously approached the farmhouse. His footsteps echoed eerily on the creaky wooden porch as he peered through a broken window. Inside, he saw a scene from a bygone era, a family gathered around a dining table, their faces twisted in agony. They seemed oblivious to his presence, trapped in a loop of torment, eternally reliving a tragedy that had befallen them in life. The Hayride passengers screamed for the ride to move on, but the wagon was immobilized, as if held in place by unseen hands. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. Some whispered prayers, others wept, but there was no escape from the farmstead's grasp. Just as hope seemed lost, the farmhouse mysteriously went dark. The ghostly apparitions faded away, and the fog began to recede. With a sudden jolt, the wagon lurched forward, leaving the accursed farmhouse behind. It wasn't until they reached the farmstead's entrance that the Hayride passengers dared to breathe a sigh of relief. The farm's owner, Benjamin, was pale as he helped the shaken passengers disembark. He swore that he had no control over the bizarre events that had transpired, and he believed that the restless spirits of his ancestors were truly haunting the farmstead. The legend of the haunted farmstead only grew after that fateful Halloween night. Some said it was cursed, while others believed it was a doorway to the spirit world. Regardless, it became a place that no one dared to visit, its chilling story passed down through the generations as a reminder that some secrets are better left undisturbed. In the heart of a small town named Millfield, where cornfields stretched as far as the eye could see, there existed an annual tradition that brought the community together, a haunted hayride. Every October, families and friends would gather to embark on this eerie journey through the fields. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across the fields, a group of friends consisting of Sarah, Michael, Emily, and David decided to join in on the tradition. Excitement buzzed through their group as they approached the waiting hayride. The wagon was adorned with cobwebs and flickering lanterns, and the horses that would pull them looked ancient and mysterious. As the group settled into their seats, the crisp air filled with a sense of anticipation. The ride began, the wagon creaking and swaying as it rolled over the uneven terrain. Scarecrows loomed in the fields, and unsettling sounds echoed through the night. The first part of the hayride was filled with scripted scares, with actors dressed as ghouls and witches jumping out from behind bushes, eliciting screams and laughter from the group. It was all in good fun, and the friends eagerly awaited the next fright. But as the hayride ventured deeper into the darkened fields, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, and a thick fog rolled in, obscuring their surroundings. Unease settled over the group like a heavy blanket. Then, the inexplicable happened. The hayride came to an abrupt halt. Sarah, Michael, Emily, and David exchanged puzzled glances, wondering if this was all part of the show. But as seconds turned into minutes, anxiety crept in. They called out to the hayride operator, but there was no response. It was as though they were completely alone in the thick, soupy fog. In the distance, faint whispers carried on the wind, like ghostly voices from another realm. The group huddled together, their breath visible in the chilly air, and their hearts pounding in their chests. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped in the darkness with no way to escape. The fog began to thin, revealing twisted trees and gnarled branches that seemed to reach out for them. The moon overhead was shrouded in clouds, casting eerie, shifting shadows. It felt as though they had entered a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead had blurred. As Sarah, Michael, Emily, and David strained their eyes to see through the fog, they noticed shadowy figures moving in the distance. These figures seemed to glide silently toward them, their forms indistinct and chilling. Dread filled the air as they realized these were not actors in costumes. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, the fog lifted completely, revealing that the hayride had inexplicably returned to its starting point. The group tumbled off the wagon, their legs trembling as they stepped onto solid ground. The Hayride operator, bewildered and pale, rushed over to them. He claimed he had no control over the bizarre events that had transpired, and he had been desperately trying to restart the wagon to no avail. It was as though they had been caught in a supernatural realm, a place where time and space were twisted. Sarah, Michael, Emily, and David left the Hayride that night, their Halloween adventure forever tainted by the inexplicable vanishing. They couldn't shake the feeling that they had glimpsed a world beyond the one they knew, a world inhabited by restless spirits and malevolent forces. The one and only Hayride in the town of Millfield was never open again. Who knows what actually happened that night?